Okay, we're live. Well, hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today I'm with Dave Clare, who is a leadership coach that enables purpose-driven organizations that evolve and stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people they serve. Well, thanks, Dave, for your time and for accepting this interview, which may help others who are thinking of a career change.
Martin, my pleasure. Absolute privilege.
Yep, my privilege too. Well, thanks, Dave. So we'll get right into it. Dave, can you share a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got started in leadership coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. The number of podcasts and things that webinars I've been interviewed on and things, you think you would have this kind of question down pat with an answer, wouldn't you? Like it's
It evolves. That's where it is.
Oh yeah, just certainly I'll just elaborate on how I got involved in leadership. I always start off with the fact that I was blessed with great parenting, Martin. My mom and dad were awesome at, in terms of raising us to be good boys and instilling some strong sense of values in us. And they were also wonderful role models. And like my dad specifically was I know it's just Mother's Day recently, but my dad was a big volunteer and learned all about leadership through community involvement and, service above self. He did a lot of work in Rotary, JC. So I was sort of conditioned into the world where you serve and help others. And I started off in my career in banking and finance, actually, and I did extremely well in terms of really caring for our customers, almost to the stage where back in the old days, I almost got fired because I spent too much time with our clients. But then when the bank shifted its direction, I know, crazy, and that all of a sudden I became one of the first people they selected to run these new customer service centers that they were shifting to in banking. And it was at that time that I found one of my other great mentors, who's been a great mentor in my life since early 90s now, so for almost 30 years of my life, beyond my dad, and that was John McGinnis. And, John saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think that's firstly a great sign of a great mentor. Yep. And he saw I had a flair for working with people and stuff like that. And he then invested in me in some personal development, organizational development type processes that weren't really banking related. It was just more about, how your mind works and goal setting and human behavior. And so I got the opportunity to participate in that. And I did extremely well through that learning, and I really embraced it. And then I was asked to be train the trainers to learn how to facilitate that same process. So it's when I sort of got my first taste of facilitation and personal development. And so I invested in myself heavily in terms of learning and reading and absorbing. And, as a practitioner, I've been a practitioner virtually my whole life, Martin. I'm not a theorist. I'm not an academic. Everything that I've had has come from, practical application in terms of leadership.
That's important.
With the benefits of all the stuff I've learned, culminated all together in, who I am today. But so as I went through the banking and finance, long story short, I had an opportunity here when I lived in Australia before. There was an opportunity to become a leadership development consultant in Papua New Guinea. And so I jumped at that chance. And so I lived over in Papua New Guinea for about 14 months and was working with the national and expatriate people who happened to be in banking again. That was the only relationship. But going over there and spending some amazing time with these national people and some of the expatriates and helping them get out of what was then deemed, the 60s and 70s management style to the more modern leadership of the world, which was really still management, but we can talk about that later. But then after that, I came back here with the birth of my second child, and then decided we didn't want to go back to New Guinea, and they'd made our roles redundant in the end anyway, as it turned out. So we then moved to Canada, and instead of getting a job, I decided I wanted to put my money where my mouth is and see, what I could do. And I really got this great taste for leadership, and there was an opportunity to join one of the world's largest personal and organizational development companies at the time as a licensee, or like a franchise, if you like. And so I did that, and I invested in that and built my business in Canada, and was doing extremely well there. And so once again, then that's when I actually started doing a lot of coaching and more facilitation and, more training in that space. And yeah, and so I've just each stage of my life, it's just progressed and progressed, and it's always been around serving others and helping people to become the best that they can be. so they can help other people become the best that they can be, which is where the foundations of my own definition of leadership came from. So, then came back here to Australia after the GFC had pretty much decimated a lot of businesses in the market where I was in, and had a chance to go back into leading teams again and being a practitioner, and took an opportunity with a not-for-profit to help turn it around. And it was really exciting for me. It was a chance for me to get back in and lead a team and build a team here in Australia, turn an organization around, which was fantastic. It's still flourishing today under a new structure and everything. But that was during the time when I decided I would write my book. So I wrote the book Simplified at that stage. About all that, and it was just a chance. Then after that, I decided, okay, and in negotiations with the board at the time, it's time for me to go. And then for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been traveling around the country, working with organizations and leaders to help them evolve to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people they serve.
Yeah, that's cool and very interesting. Yeah. And you've kind of highlighted a few points there, like, obviously being influenced by your father and John, and also you mentioned about investing in yourself, which makes perfect sense, because when we invest in ourselves, we're actually growing ourselves, and when we grow, we've got something to give. So it's kind of interesting how that works. And I like how you're very practical, and what you teach works because it's been proven. You've got case studies behind you. And I like the philosophy about helping others to become the best that they can become. And it's interesting because this morning I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how does someone feel good? And one of the ways people feel good is by making other people feel good. That's probably the more long-term, more sustainable way to feel good. And you're doing exactly that. Well, thanks for sharing your background, Dave. That's excellent. Apart from your dad and John, was there anyone else that inspired you to become a leadership coach?
Well, I've had some mentors who've come in and out of my life over the years, and there's, and I think that's important to understand that some people just come in and out of your life for certain reasons at certain times, and not everybody has to stay.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something that I've learned, and I've had some wonderful mentors, who were, obviously, like I've had Tony Mola, even Peter Williams was a great. He was actually a great mentor for many other reasons, in terms of he helped me understand the type of leader I didn't want to be. And nothing against Peter's person; he was a great guy, but just his leadership style wasn't the way I wanted to. And and that's okay, because I use that to make the point that some of your mentors might teach you about what you don't, or help you to really clearly identify what it is you don't want, and some of them help you to identify what it is you do want, or have been down the road where you'd like to head. Yeah,
that's an important point, because you don't want to be, I guess, out there in the world behaving in a way that's incongruent with who you really are, because that's an inner conflict. It's like driving a car with your foot on the accelerator and your foot on the brake. You ain't going to go too far. It's going to be painful, and you want to flow. You want to be in alignment with who you are. So I get where you're coming from. So it is important to know what you don't like, because sometimes that sheds a light on what you do want. It's quite interesting what you've said there. Yeah, cool. So in terms of, like, what would you say was the main reason that caused you to make that career change from the call center sales manager role, or GM ATC Midwest staffing and recruiting, into leadership coaching?
Yeah, you've done your homework. You know what? Well, for the first step, moving back to Canada, instead of getting another job, I did look at potential, because I would, say had a senior leadership role in the bank, in the call center and all that, prior to going to New Guinea, then coming back. But then it was just an opportunity. I guess there was something just bugging me, that little voice or whisper in the back of your mind. And this is really fascinating, especially from people who are employed in a career perspective too, Martin, is that, I always used to ask people, who do you work for? And they would say, I work for ABC company. I said, no, you don't. Yeah, I do. No, you don't. You work for you. Yeah. And so this is when it comes to personal development, right? And they're saying, anything you do, why should I go pay for that if it's going to benefit them? Well, it's going to benefit you. And, so this is why you should learn more, and that it's only going to help you become the best version of yourself, so you can do your life's best work. And so for me, every investment I could make, as we talked about before, I knew was investing in myself. But what I hadn't done is I hadn't taken the leap of faith and put that investment to work for myself in, beyond working within an organizational structure, and I was resting on my laurels a lot in terms of I knew that, I could, especially when I was in the bank, I could go to any meeting anywhere. I was comfortable. I could sit in front of anybody, because I had the power of all that behind me,
Yeah.
plus my own level of confidence. But I wanted to, put my money where my mouth was and just see if I could do it on my own. And that's where I made that first leap out into buying that license, which was a fairly big leap, but also I was joining one of the largest organizational development companies in the world that had tremendous credibility, 60 countries, been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I was able to leverage that. So it was kind of like leaping with a parachute.
Yes.
But it was still a leap.
Good idea.
I didn't know if that chute was going to open, but I jumped anyway.
Yeah.
And so that was more about just challenging myself to, if I'm really talking about being the best that I can be.
Yeah.
When I'm doing that when you talk about being in your comfort zones and stuff like that, for me, I don't believe that people, there's this thing, all growth happens outside your comfort zone. I challenge people in the sense of, what if you just stretch and push the boundaries of your comfort zone and actually push it so you can actually fit more into your comfort zone, and become more comfortable with the things that you want? Because most times when we jump outside our comfort zone, as soon as the heat's on, we want to jump back in.
Yeah, that's right. It's maybe too dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why many people don't evolve or grow, or develop, because they take it and it just doesn't work. It's like, oh, and I said, well, why don't you just stretch and push and, rather than making this massive leap. And so that was kind of, I guess, my philosophy. And, I had some epic failures along that way, but it was how I learned about myself. And it was also forced me then to come up with my own tools, my own processes, and to really, show that I'm not just a theorist and I am a practitioner of this, because most of the stuff I work with clients on right now is all learned from my failings.
Yeah, well, they're valuable. I mean, failings really, it's kind of how we look at it. There is no failure. It's all feedback. And you can't succeed unless you fail. That's what I believe. I mean, a child doesn't learn to walk without failing. I mean, I've never heard of a child start walking when they took their first step. So to me, there's a lot of lessons there. But the comfort zone, I'll just touch quickly on that, because that's an interesting concept. And I agree with you 100%. It's important to stretch and even just try something small. It doesn't have to be dramatic. And I know if it's too dramatic, people, like you said, they feel very uncomfortable and they go back into safety and security. So I think it is important to keep stretching, because like you said, you ain't going to grow unless you stretch. And one thing I talk about, comfort zone is danger zone or dead zone. And in the comfort zone, there is no risk, there is no failure, but there's also no success. And one thing that I tend to say to people is, outside your comfort zone, yes, there is risk, there is failure, but guess what? There's success, there's happiness. And the biggest benefit of stepping outside your comfort zone is you're going to meet the real you. And isn't that what we're here to do? To meet who we really are? And one day we will, I guess, but it's best to meet while you're alive than after when you're dead. So anyway, it's very interesting. Now that's cool.
Like if they do talk about, like, if you talk to all the people, who are at the tail end of life or very close to it, or, their regrets on the deathbed kind of concept, it's that they didn't take those chances, that they didn't make that leap, that they didn't stretch, they didn't push themselves to find out who they really were.
Exactly. In fact, there's a book written by a lady, Bonnie Ware. You may have heard of her, Australian palliative care nurse, and she talks about the 5 regrets of the dying, and that's one of them. So, good point. So in terms of like discovering that passion for leadership, was there anything that stood out for you that may help other people, discover or uncover their passion? Like, what did it for you?
Yeah, I guess when it was more about when I wanted to discover what my purpose was, and I've always joked that I'm a bit of a slow learner. It really took me till I was, just before, late 40s, not quite 50 yet. I am now, but back then it was to be able to really crystallize it into a 7-word or less or 10-word or less kind of a statement for myself, and then also then from a business point of view, is I went back, and this is the same way I help people discover their purpose, business wise and or individually. Is if you look at who you'd like to be of service to, like, this is where, like, especially a lot of people who are younger, like, just go out and experience and learn stuff, because you're going to find out what you like and what you don't like, as we talked about earlier in terms of leadership and all that. And I learned the types of people that I like to be around and the people I don't like to be around, and the people I know that I would love to be able to help and serve. And so I was able to start to identify who they were that I really wanted to be of value to in this world. And then with that, I look, what are the biggest problems that they have in terms of, looking at all the problems, and made a list of all the problems that I saw in their world. And then I made a list of all things that I was really passionate about, or what I call is, like, what really gets you jazzed up? Like, when was I, like, on fire and time stood still, and,
Yes.
what work that I was doing, and, what were those moments? And then I realized, and this is why I became really, motivated by, helping people really drive purpose in their lives, is because when that CEO or business leader that I had the privilege to serve, when they really reconnected or, crystallized, why their business started beyond making money.
Yes.
That when they realized, what the impact it would have on humanity in terms of, how they wanted to serve the world themselves, when they got it, like, that's when I got most excited. And I'm like, just to see their whole physiology shift and change, and then their ability to help their people have this personal connection to this public sense of purpose that they've defined. That's when I got most jazzed. That's when I got most excited, when that happened. And then that's where I wrote that very first thing that I use as a bit of my, sort of a nom de plume, if you like, in terms of profit for purpose, is, I really believe that when you become the prophet of your purpose, the PH prophet, that's when you will profit from your purpose. And that doesn't have to mean necessarily in dollars. Your, profit is just getting more from than what you started with. And so that, when you're the inspired teacher, leader of your cause or your calling,
yes,
that's when things happen. And, so for me, I say, make those two lists, because I'm a firm believer that your purpose lies at the crossroads of where the thing where you're most passionate about, the problem you see in the world. And, when you talk about leading to your passion, and it's really important, and you and I both, I know we embrace this as a concept, that, passion means suffering, right? If you look at the etymology or the root of the word passion, it means to suffer, which is like, passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
And this is why I say your purpose lies at the crossroad of the thing you're most passionate about and the problem you see, or the biggest problem you want to solve in the world for the people you choose, is because if you're not passionate about it and things get tough, what are you likely to do, Martin?
Yeah, give up. That's right.
Yeah, quit or give up, right? So when you're passionate about it, you will find a way through.
Exactly.
What are you willing to sacrifice for? What do you want? And especially look at times like this right now. And I've put up a few posts over the last 8 weeks about this, and I say this with, please understand, with the greatest of empathy and compassion for people. There's a lot of people suffering physically, financially, mentally, health, everything like that right now.
Yep.
But some people who have lost their jobs or lost their businesses, some businesses won't survive this, some jobs won't survive this, but doesn't mean the individuals won't survive this.
True, because they're independent.
But this is a chance to go and find, because the reason why you probably won't survive this is because your business won't survive this, or your job, because you might not have been passionate about the work you're doing, but you were in the trappings of success and in that comfort zone and all these things we've just talked about.
Become blinded.
Like, how many times have you known somebody who, from a career point of view, who lost their job only to go find something that was far more meaningful, and the best thing ever happened to them was to lose that job?
Yeah,
because they wouldn't have taken the action themselves.
Yeah, they needed something, and that's why sometimes pain is good, because it drives you. Yeah,
and then this has been forced and thrust upon us, like it or not. But this could be potentially the best thing that ever happened to some people in terms of can you imagine if you're a business owner or leader and you're in a business you just don't love, and it pays your mortgage, it does all this sort of stuff, and it's a burden that you carry every day, and one of my little things is Clarisms or quotes is a bucket with a small hole in the bottom of it empties just as much as one that's deliberately kicked over. It just takes longer. So perhaps you already had a leak in it and it was bleeding out, and your passion was bleeding out, and it just, eventually that business wouldn't have done.
You're dying inside. Exactly. And that's why people stuck in a 9 to 5 that hate what they're doing, slowly, they're dying. And they're
Yeah,
probably
there's
not
nothing wrong with
realizing
a
it's
nine
like
to
cooking
five
that
role.
frog in the water. You know, the frog, if you
Yeah,
put it in water and turn up the temperature, it'll cook.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why you need something to wake people up. Yeah, no,
Yeah, and perhaps this is the wake up call. I'm
exactly.
not saying it is for everybody, but I'm just saying, so, and we work in similar concepts, which is why I love the work that you do. That you can have a victim mindset or a victor mindset. You can
Yep.
go, this is happening to me, or this is happening for me. And
Yes.
those who are going, oh, this is happening to me, are going to go negative.
Yep.
Those who are
You're
saying this
depressed.
is happening for me are going to start thinking about opportunities and what can I learn from this and how can I move forward with this. And
Yeah.
so it's really important that you challenge how you're looking at this.
Yes, you're right. It's all to do with mindset. And
Mm.
like, is God punishing me or is he challenging me? And I just want to touch
Yeah,
about this.
mindset and heart set,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the right mindset, but and also you
True.
realize that what, my heart isn't in what I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm hand on your heart and go, did you really love what you were doing?
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. You loved that it paid your bills and it kept the roof over your head and food and everything like that.
Yeah.
But did you really love? Is this your life's best work? Are you doing something that brings out the best in you?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
You COVID or whatever the pandemic's kicked that bucket over, and you can, and I appreciate that human beings and human nature, please take some time to process that. But at some stage, flick the switch from victim to victor and go, now, heart set and mindset, how am I going to move forward?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. See, also with mind, I mean, they say that the heart actually has a mind and that the heart
Yeah,
was developed
the heart
before the
brain.
brain. So, yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
interesting. But you're spot on 100%. I agree. We're on the same page with this because I can see that you're helping the organizations, get in connect with their purpose and get the employees connected with the purpose of the organization. That's like one end of the spectrum. I'm working at the other end of the spectrum, trying to get the individuals to think about their own personal purpose. And I guess
Yeah.
the two shall meet, but we're kind of on the same cause about purpose and
Yeah, absolutely.
fulfillment and success. In a way, you've probably heard the saying that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
Tony Robbins mentioned that.
Yeah.
He's spot on. I mean, there are people that have got millions, even billions. They're successful. How many are actually fulfilled? I mean, some are and some aren't. But you can
Yeah.
see through examples like Bill Gates, he doesn't have to work, but he's working because he knows that he's going to feel good by doing good. So it's very interesting
Yeah,
concept.
he loves it. I mean, Gary Vee talks about, you can cry in your Ferrari or you can smile in your Camry. It's up to you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So yeah,
yeah.
be happy this moment right now, right here. So yeah, it's good. Okay, so in terms of building your business, may I ask, did you build that while you're still in your 9 to 5? How did you do it, or did you burn the boats and take the island? It sounds like maybe it might have been more of that.
Yeah. Well, when it was kind of burn the boats and blow up the bridges and all that kind of a concept.
Yeah.
But in this last phase where I am now with Circle Leadership, when I left ATC, I'd already had the book out. I'd already written that. I'd already been traveling around Australia speaking. The board, so I took my annual leave because I was asked to speak at all these different events because of some of the success we were having with ATC and the turnaround, plus the content that I was putting out. And so I was traveling in the promotion of the book. And so I was asked to speak at different conferences, and, it's already had that sort of path already started. And it got to a stage where, I remember writing a post about this a long time ago. I was getting saddle sores from riding 2 horses at the same time. ATC had moved from beyond being my sandbox where I could get back in the thing and rebuild and do all that stuff to where they just needed somebody else. Like I was past my use by date for what the organization needed, and they needed to bring somebody else in who could take it to the next level because I'd done what I do best in that space. And I'd done my life's best work at that time, and then somebody else came along and took it to the next level, and then they've merged and so on. But so while all that was happening, I was already planted seeds for years in terms of trees that I could now go and sit under and enjoy and start off with the organization. Obviously, but it was quite fascinating for me because as I went out on my own again and that with the speaking around and published the book, and it was really exciting because there I was thinking I'm going to become this famous author and travel the world and be on stages and promoting, and And, that very first year, I probably had my worst year I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Maybe
I was
that's the universe trying to humble us, you know?
yeah, I would 100%. I put my hand up. I was on another podcast a few weeks back, and I said, it was the first time I'd really shared. It was a very strong ego phase of my life, which, but I was probably just searching for significance in terms of what next, and I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be based on that. But I also realized that I was not totally removed from my purpose, but where I'd gone is I'd diluted it a little bit, if you like. And that's, once again, I realized when you get off purpose, or, because I was so focused on inspiring, because, for me,
Yeah.
the book and speaking on stage, I enjoy doing those things, and I do extremely well, but it's inspiring people is one thing, but it wasn't actually helping them become purpose driven. It was encouraging and inspiring them. It's kind of like fireworks, like, oh my God, that's so exciting. You know how it is for anyone who does.
Yeah.
You can learn it. You can,
Not sustainable.
what my other Claire's, no one's ever lost 20 pounds from reading a book on weight loss,
Yeah,
unless
true.
you do the work, right?
You got to do the work.
So, yeah. So for me, what I realized is I was so busy working on inspiring, which fed my ego, but I wasn't doing enough to help create, because one of my big, hairy, audacious goal was to create and inspire 90 million purpose-driven leaders.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and so for me, I was spending too much time on the inspiring and not much on the creating. Helping there, and this is where then it sort of shifted gears, and I got such another layer of clarity about the fact that, my role here is to help people to evolve themselves and their businesses to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that they choose to serve.
Yeah.
It wasn't just to inspire them to do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's something that I've come across too, where people say, come on, can you help me figure out my life purpose? Well, that's one thing. That's kind of like step one, because the next thing is, how do you live it? And I also show people how to actually live it in the real world, not just find it, because finding it's one thing. It's like finding the drill, but it's nice to be able to use that drill to do good. If you know what I mean. So no, you've touched on some key concepts there. So that's all good.
And I think you raised a really interesting point. I just want to, sorry to jump in there, but I just finished. I've got tonight. I actually got my last session with a leadership group of 10 of an organization, and it's really cool because I sent them an email after Monday's session about pretty much what you were talking about there. I said, okay, we've got the clear sense of purpose. They now have, their values clearly defined, and, practical magic in their values. And they've got this inspiring vision of the world, and they've defined their mission, at the next evolution of their business. And they've got, that 3 year, know what 3 years look like. They know what 1 year looks like. They now know what the next 90 days look like for their business, and the actions that they need to do. It's all mapped out.
Yes.
And I said, now the hard stuff begins. You actually have to execute.
Yes. And I think the execution becomes easy once they're very clear on the reason why, because as they say, reasons come first, answers come second. Like me, when I set a goal, I always try and write down positives and negatives. Like, what am I going to get out of this goal? Why am I doing this? What's it going to lead to? And also, if I don't do it, I really want to feel that pain of whatever, missing out, letting someone down. That's what I have found personally has helped me to achieve the goals I've achieved. It's through that clear understanding. A lot of people decide what they want, but they don't look at the why, the reason, which is actually kind of the purpose, if you know what I mean. That's
so important. If anybody's listening or watching this to what Martin just said, please understand. Most people, I'll ask them, talk to me about the goal setting process. What do you know about goal setting? They go, okay, well, you need to work out what you want, then you need to work out how you're going to get it, and like, just skip through the second step is the biggest, most important step, and you just skip right past it, which is, sure, identify what you want. Then you need to ask yourself, why do I want that?
Exactly.
And then what you write down, I assure you, like some of the goal setting sessions I've done, and I did them back in Canada, would go for 2 to 4 hours with an executive, because we would drill down on the why. Like, the first why you write is usually a motherhood statement, and then you just got to ask, why do I want that? Why is that so important? Well, that's
exactly 5 whys or whatever. I know
like you don't even get close to it till you're like 6 whys deep, and then when you're afraid to write down what it really is, I guarantee you're very close then. And the important part of goal setting, as you were articulating that, and the other thing I remind people about this is, it's not so much about the achievement of the goal; it's about who you become through the achievement of the goal. That's far more important than any tangible thing. If you set a goal to buy a house or whatever it is you might want to do, or it's who you become, and the disciplines and the organization and the structures and all that stuff that you have to put in place, and you have to, evolve to that person who would own a house and do the things that a house owner would have, or someone who saves for a house. And so it's more about who you become in that
Exactly.
process.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, because things don't make us happy.
No.
Who you become and how you feel about yourself, that's really the ultimate. Yeah, it's interesting. We could talk about this for hours because it's quite an interesting subject.
Just understand the goal is the vehicle for your own development. It's not so much about the attainment of the goal, because it gets back to the whole why point that you were talking about. It's like, why do you really want it in terms of here, not here, right?
Yeah.
Because this is why we all buy an emotion and we rationalize with logic, right? So
true. And justify things too.
Have you ever achieved something you didn't even have a plan? You had no clue how to do it. You just wanted it so badly, you made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine if you could tap into that every time you wanted something.
Yeah. Well, that's why all you need is the outcome and why you want it. And the rest, they say, let the universe figure out the how. That's what I think a lot of law of attraction is about. It's about seeing it as if you've already got it. Yeah.
Yeah. The 6 letters of the law of attraction exist for a reason.
Yeah. Action.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I learned that too.
I had, and I'm going to manifest this into my life.
Yeah.
And what it's saying is you ask for it. And then what the universe does is it gives you everything against it, because it helps you develop the, this is what people have to understand, even like goal setting, and depending from a spiritual perspective or whatever level you want to work at. If I say, I wish I had more courage, do you think the universe gives me courage? No, it gives me challenges and things to overcome to develop
gives
courage.
You what you need to get what you want. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's like the quick story about the guy that was in the boat and fell out of the boat, and the boat capsized, and looks like he's going to drown. And another boat comes past and said, "Oh, can I help you?" No, I'm good. God will save me. Then another boat, God will save me. And then he drowns and dies, goes to heaven. He said, "God, where were you? I believed in you my whole life, and you never saved me." And God said, "Well, what do you want? I sent you 2 boats." That kind of.
It's a great one, though. I still love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so in terms of building your business, what would you say was one of your challenges or main challenges, and how did you overcome it?
I guess from my business, I can't say this is for anybody else's business, was there was two challenges. One, I'm challenging the traditional thinking about way people do build businesses, or the way they think about that from a strategic point of view. Whereas, we have culture and strategy. I believe that strategy is born from culture, and that works as a shield to protect your strategy. So really challenging the traditional thinking around that. Then also, how do we develop our strategy as well? So for me, I really challenge in that space the traditional thinking, or the textbook thinking, if you like, that's around there. And then secondly, whilst I had somewhat of a brand awareness, my brand wasn't anyone to be compared. Like when people are hearing from, all these other leadership gurus and all that, and that who am I to, when they look at the stuff that I share and present, I'm very confident in my work and the clients that I have, and the results that they're getting, which is fantastic, and my tools and my process. But because somebody else has more popularly promoted it, or something similar,
object,
it
works.
I look at my circle of organizational leadership model that I work with clients on. I developed that back in 2002, and a lot of people compare it to something similar to where Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, which he launched in 2010 or 12 or whatever it was. And kudos to him. I don't take anything away from him. I love Simon's work. It's great.
Yeah, me too.
Inspirational. But if Simon says it versus if Dave says it. So one of my challenges was to get past that and not compare myself to that. So businesses, too often not, we seek to compare ourselves. And so for me, it was just not to compare myself to that, and be very confident in my process and stuff like that, because I'm going and I'm pushing the boundaries. I push a lot of the fundamental thinking that we've had for years. Like this.
I can see that. It's important to stay in your own lane too.
Like everyone's talking about growth, the business growth. We need to grow. Well, this is why most organizations have failed, because they've grown so big they became irrelevant to the people that they started out to serve in the first place. Because they were so growing to just get more market share and more serve more
Kodak or whatever. I know what you mean.
We can go through history, but even up to just before the pandemic, all these other businesses that collapsed, the biggest businesses in the world, because they became totally irrelevant.
Yes. That's what's important, to anticipate what's going to happen. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Even though you're successful today, it doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful tomorrow. You've got to have a forward vision and anticipate how the market's going to shift, and to be a bit more independent. Yeah.
And if you're not constantly evolving your organization, and if you're building your strategy based on how much money you want to make this year, or a 2% improvement in this, or a 10% improvement in that is the wrong way to
It's
evolve.
ego-driven. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's ego-driven, and it doesn't last.
Well, what it says is money is what's most important to us, or revenue, or things like that, or rather than saying we need to build an organization that's going to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people we choose to serve.
Because then you get the money. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Their future needs, and think about my customers, and so this is where I challenge people in terms of their strategy, that those sort of things are important in strategy, but it shouldn't be what the strategy is built from.
Yeah, that's right. The reason you exist, it comes back down to that thing called purpose, which is important. Yeah, thanks for sharing those couple of points there.
So it's, don't be afraid, and this is something that I had to work through, is that for anyone out there in business, especially in this world, the exciting part right now, Martin, is that nobody has a clue of what should be done or how it should be done anymore. Right? It's kind of been this big slap in the face to everybody, and everyone's questioning about how we do business now.
Yeah, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I think, and once again, with complete empathy for people who are suffering right now, I'm excited about the opportunity that is presented, because crisis is a magnificent teacher, but usually we're lousy students.
Yes.
And so I'm forcing myself to be, a really strong student right now. And, I wrote for myself some time ago that, Dave, what you think matters, what you thought doesn't. Your personal and professional biases are no longer relevant.
Yeah, no, I saw those in some of your posts, and that's a good message. I like that one.
We need to let go of some of those things that we held, because if we're locking on to the way of thinking in a world that's been redefined, we're not going to see everything that's possible, Martin.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. In fact, I'm trying to let go of a lot of things, just become a little bit more freer and unattached, and not expect anything. And I'm becoming actually happier by letting go. So letting go is actually, it's the opposite of consumerism, and it actually makes you feel good. No, that's all cool. So can I ask you, how did you get your first client?
How did I get my first client?
Yep.
That was it was actually somebody that I was known to me, which was really cool. My first real client would have been Todd West and the team at Glasgow are still clients of mine today, and I'm really privileged to be able to continue to serve them as an organization. But Todd and I had done a lot of work together in community work and stuff like that. And he loved the work that I was doing there, and he'd asked if I could help him do that for his organization. And that's pretty much how it started.
Knowing someone.
But they could see the work. I didn't have to, magically go, here's all the cool stuff I can do, let me show you. He'd already seen it, because I live it and breathe it every day, and he could see that,
your passion.
That I'd had for the organization that I was leading at the time, plus the work I was doing in the community.
So you attracted them. You attracted them. It wasn't that you hard sold them. You attracted them. That's what it sounds like. Which is the best way to serve. Yeah. No, that's cool. So, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking of a career change or starting a business?
Let's start with career change. If you're looking at a career change, this is my one simple piece of advice I give to every single person when I've done any career counseling, is if you're going to run, don't run away from what you don't want, run towards what you do want.
Yep. That's a good
point. Because most people don't like where they are, so I'm leaving this place, and then guess where they run? Right back into somewhere else, and then they go 3 months later, they get there, this is amazing here, and then 3 months later, it's the same crap again. They've run right back into the same, it's these people who go from one bad relationship to the next. Yeah,
I was going to say that. I was thinking about that too. And then down the track, they realized the problem was actually themselves. It wasn't the other person. Anyway, sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And I can tell you a story about that. But so that would be my advice from a career point of view. Get very clear. And I tell people, don't write down the job title. I want to be a general manager with it. No,
that's all about ego.
Function. Yeah, write down the functions that you're looking for, because form should follow function. And this problem, it's like, if I want to be, I want to be the CEO, you could end up being the CEO of a tiny little company where there's a job that was an operations manager of a much bigger company. But what you want to do is lead bigger teams and have more responsibility.
Yeah.
And that other opportunity could have given you what you wanted, but you went for the title instead of the function.
Yeah.
You went for the form instead of the function.
Yeah.
So that's my pieces of advice. Now, from a business, if there's some fundamentals that many leadership gurus and all this, or entrepreneurial gurus will tell you. Firstly, be very clear in who it is you'd like to be of service to. Then you say, is there a gap in the market where you could fill? But then, is there a market in the gap? And once again, being very clear. The very first thing is, no surprise to you or me, probably would be, get very clear on what your purpose is. Why are you starting this business beyond making money?
Yeah.
What is the problem you're most passionate about solving for those people in this world? And get very clear on that. And especially, there's a lot, like I've done some speaking to startup groups and all that. Like, there's all these startups, the incubator hubs, and I find it quite fascinating, Martin, that most people are trying to start up a business. And I'm like, that's not what a startup is. Startup should be trying to start up solving a problem.
Yeah.
And then as you continue to show that you can solve that problem, and you
that's right. It's the ego again. Business for themselves, not.
What they want to do is, if you want to start up a business, then that's why everyone's trying to go find financing and investors and all this stuff. Start up the solution to a problem, and then go test that, and go get someone to pay for that solution, and then tweak it and adjust it. And then as you realize that you need more resources, you need to organize things. Well, then you need to build an organization, and then business, then you need to look at investors, and then you need to look at. So don't ever lose sight of why you're starting this business in the first place, because it's a lot easier to get clear at the beginning than it is to go and find it much later.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's also easier to market the business once you're clear of why you're doing the business and what you're trying to achieve. Then your messaging becomes a lot more clear. People are going to connect and resonate. You're going to get more business, more clients. That's what I found with some people in, say, the coaching space, where a lot of life coaches, but it's too wishy-washy. Like, what does that mean? Yeah. But when you say I'm a career coach or I'm a health coach, that's a bit more specific. But then you can go even more specific. I'm a health coach for women that are between the ages of 40 and 50. It's important to be more precise as to what specific problem you solve. Otherwise, you become a generalist, and there's so many generalists out there. You're better off becoming a specialist, like you're a specialist in leadership for, organizations.
Small, medium-sized enterprises that are privately held professional service firms.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at it, and this is really important, because when you try to be everything to everybody, you become nothing to somebody.
Exactly.
And I really want to you raised a really important point, and I want to really see if I can simplify this for people in terms of, if you start a business, the reason why you and I think, from a purpose point of view, you should start something that you're passionate about, and that that you love. Don't get involved, and love not just in the lovey-dovey. My wife's extremely passionate about me because she endures sacrifices and suffers for having me as her husband. But when you have that relationship that you see through the trials and tribulations, and it's almost the same kind of concept in terms of relationship with the organization. But if you don't love your business and why you do what you do, and you're building a team, how are they supposed to love the business and why it is what they do?
Exactly.
And if you love the business, and then your team love the business, and you speak that love to the market, then the market can respond in kind, in terms of, that we love why you do what you do for us. And this is where the brand and culture relationship happens. Is culture is how we think and feel about our organization, and brand is how the market or the consumer thinks and feels about our organization. Our job as purpose-driven leaders is to get those two halves of the heart to match.
Yep.
And so when we are able to do that, but if you don't love why you do what you do, then you're going to find it hard to engage other people.
Yes.
When you are you married? Are you married?
Me, I was this morning.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as you know, you're somewhere. But as I say, why do people get engaged? Like, why do you propose
to feel good? Really, at the end of the day, I think that's.
But when you propose to your partner,
because you love them and everything about them and how they make you feel.
Right. So if purpose is there to engage our employees, well, if you don't love why you do what you do, how are people supposed to get engaged? Can people get engaged when they're in love, Martin?
Yeah. True. That's exactly true. So your employees, it's important for them to be the right ones for that problem that you're solving. It kind of reminds me of the.
Can you imagine if you've got a whole team of volunteers who just would volunteer to your cause or your calling.
Yeah.
And if you could take that not-for-profit mindset where you have a bunch of volunteers,
Yes.
people who would do that, and they would do the work even if they didn't get paid. It doesn't mean you shouldn't pay them. I'm just saying if they could do the work.
Yeah, I like that concept. Yeah, I like that. So, and you remind me of the
army of volunteers who love why they do what they do.
Yeah, that's how we need to build organizations. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you there, 100%. And you remind me of the door-to-door salesman that knocks on the door and says, "You wouldn't want to buy one of these, would you?" Obviously, they don't believe in that product, so they're selling the wrong thing. So it's important for also the employee to make sure they're joining an organization that's clear on what they're all about and not just the money. I mean, money's important. There's no question there. We all got to survive. But if you can match both, earn the income with doing something you love, or even working for someone that you love their mission, and that's what you're trying to create, organizations like that, then that's fantastic.
Yeah. And, when you're talking about like from a career point of view, I've interviewed hundreds, almost thousands of people probably over my years in terms for things. And I've said to them, like, when you're coming in here to be interviewed for this particular role that we have on offer, most people are nervous about that and stuff. And I said, I always say we're on an equal playing field here, because what I expect from you is that you should be interviewing me and this organization to make sure it's right for you, because I wouldn't want you to join us just because you need a job and that you want to be paid for this. So you need to make sure that I'm the right leader who can help you to evolve and become the best you can do to do your life's best work while you're in my care and beyond. You have to love why our organization does what it does.
Yep.
And, and then hopefully on top of that, you get a good remuneration that will fit your lifestyle.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense, because it does work both ways. No, excellent. Yeah. So,
and Dave, if not, go start your own thing.
Sorry? Yeah.
And if not, go start your own thing. You got to look, if you look at the three biggest disruptions in the world, in business world from the last 10 years, Airbnb, Netflix, and Uber, all three of those were started by, I used to call it my two dudes theory, two people who weren't in the industry. They were just pissed off consumers who were unhappy with the way that they weren't started from people within the industry. So if you're not happy in the work or the field that you're in, you could go and start something. How easy is it to start a business today, Mark?
It's easy, and you got access to great minds through the internet. So no, you're spot on, and that's sometimes the driver. Your pain becomes your purpose. Like even people that have been through trauma, like maybe they've been raped or whatever, they can. And I've seen people do that. Like I know people, like ladies that have lost a baby, and then they go and become coaches for other ladies that have lost a baby and just help them get through that phase because they've been through that phase. Or people have lost a lot of weight.
But they also understand why that was happening for them, because then they know that this was their opportunity to be the messenger and help other people through that trauma. And I've got a lot of friends who are do some trauma or resilience work. I've interviewed some amazing people who are resilience speakers and authors, and it's come from their learning and their practical applications of the stuff that they did. And they realize that it's happened for them, that this is their purpose in life is to.
That's right.
Their pain is their gift. They have the strength. They can go and help other people to learn how to do it too.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same page. Okay, Dave. So how can people learn more about you, your work, or get in contact with you? And I'll
the simplest way is just go to my website, daveclare.com, DAVECLARE.com. And all my contact details, socials, and all that there. It's the easiest way to find out about my work. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. But primarily the easiest way, just go to my website. You can. All my social links are there. And it's just if you're looking to learn how to evolve yourself, to evolve your business, to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that you choose to serve. And I would encourage people to understand that evolution should be the natural state of business. I'm hoping that people are learning that through this time right now, that, growing and growing and growing is not going to solve your problem. Is if you're not evolving first in terms of relevance and anticipating the future needs and stuff like that, and your customers, then your organization is going to continue to struggle going forward into a redefined world.
Yep. Yeah, spot on. And I'll put those links in the post when I put that out. And do you have any final words, Dave?
Can I make an offer?
Of course you can make an offer.
Okay.
One that someone can't refuse,
I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Okay, so here's my offer to anybody watching this. if you have an organization where you lead people, please, for people who lead people, because my role is to help people who lead people. If you're watching this and you would like a free 30-minute, no obligation, no expectations, no sales pitch, free, just a quick brain or heart and what I call heart and mind storming session with me about yourself and your business and the evolution of your organization. I've been doing this. I have 5 spots every week that I've opened up. You know, there's all this stuff going around, Martin, that says, you know, we're all in this together.
Yep.
And, you know, you might be all going through this at the same time, but are we really all in this together? Yep. And because I've had 8 to 10 hours of my week freed up from not having to commute and stuff like that, I said, well, how, you know, back when I was doing all that stuff, I put, what now? How can I be of service right now? And the best way I could be of service is just to challenge people's thinking and help them to move from victim to victor and help them look at different opportunities and stuff like that. So if anybody would like one of those 30-minute free, no obligation, no sales pitch, no notice sessions, just go to my website, go to the contact thing, and just send me an email saying, saw you on Martin's podcast, his webinar, and would love to take you up on one of those, and we'll schedule. I only have 5 a week. And you know what? In all honesty, between you and me, mate, it's been the most fun things I've been doing lately. Just to sit there and just listen to people talk about their business and then challenge their thinking. I've had so much fun doing these things. It's great. So if anyone wants them, there's only 5 a week that are available. Yeah,
thanks for the offer, Dave. So people, get onto that. Don't procrastinate. You've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. I mean, it's best to find out, I say. So thanks for that. And thanks, Dave, for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. You're a great leader, and that's what makes you an excellent leadership coach.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell. I can feel your hunger and your passion about, you know, enabling purpose-driven organizations. And that's what I think makes the biggest difference, because I think clients, or your clients, can feel that energy. They feel that you really care, and then they respond accordingly. And you're a prime example of that. So thanks for that.
And I think you know, we what I love about your work too, Martin, is that you know, I come from this side, you come from that side, and we're both, and I think it's so important, the work that you do. If I can create the organizational framework, the structure in place where that is, and you can help people get their hearts and minds aligned to the work that they, or, you know, in terms of work. Can you just imagine a world where everybody had meaningful work?
Yes.
Work that was meaningful.
That's right.
Like
it'll be really amazing. And I know that for a fact, because, you know, I've been through it myself, doing, how do you say, unmeaningful work to meaningful work. And you're right, it will change the whole world. And like you said, you're trying to get that end from the employer's point of view to be more meaningful for the staff. I'm trying to get it from the other end. And to me, I'm happy for people, their purpose to be in an organization that's purpose driven, the ones that you create. Absolutely. Or it might be their own business. And just touching on the point about having meaningful work and having a purpose, to me, it affects your whole life, because I believe that if you have meaning in your life, you have purpose in your life, that flows on to your health. You end up looking after your health better. You stop eating junk food. You stop drinking, doing drugs, which also, you know, leads to not only better health, better relationships. You end up being nicer and kinder to people. And also you end up making more income, I believe. So it's all interrelated, because I know people that hate their job, and I've spoken to them. They go home, they grab a beer, watch the news, they moan and groan, they snap at people. And to me, that makes the world a worse place. So what we're doing is we are kind of trying to change the world to be a better place for everyone to be happy and just live their life the way they want to live their life.
Absolutely, mate. You know what? We can help create an upward spiral for people's lives, or they can continue the downward spiral.
Exactly.
To what you were talking about there. And to me, I'm doing whatever I can in my power, with my talents, my abilities, my passions, to help set up a framework and an environment in organizations where that can thrive. And you're finding people to get them aligned to doing the work that they love. And if we can get those two things happening together, we can shift the consciousness of the planet.
Yeah, that's right.
The consciousness of this planet.
And that's what it's all about. So that's excellent, Dave. Well, thanks again for your time. That's a wrap. And thanks everyone that's watching this. I hope you all have a great day. Bye for now. Yeah, great t-shirt, Dave.